how do you bond together? Kiran and I are very good friends and we've been friends for over 3 decades. In fact, Vikram was a closer friend of Kiran than she was of me. I knew John before I knew Kiran. So we were friends with each other's spouses before we became very close friends.
Vikram and I used to talk to each other every morning.
Late night also.
Okay,
There,
maybe.
did you see that? You were a brewmaster, the only woman brewmaster at that time. I mean, how did that happen?
My dad said, why don't you do brewing? So I said, are you nuts? I'm a girl. It's not the right profession for a woman. And he's the one who said to me, why are you bringing gender into this? He said, do you know what is brewing? It is microbiology. It is biotechnology. And I know you keep talking about biotechnology. That's how I went to Australia. And I, topped my class in Australia as a master brewer.
How did you meet John?
John came to Bangalore as chairman and managing director of Madura Coats. We were both single. John was very unromantic in many ways. John said to me, he said, I wonder why we never thought of getting married. Right, it's settled. I just looked at him. And then before I could say anything, he told that waiter, we've just decided to get married. Get us your best bottle of champagne. That's how he proposed.
And Geetu, you're totally different.
We were introduced at a party and we went around for a year and we proposed at a restaurant his style, with a wonderful glass of wine. That was my first glass of wine and I was wowed,
A lot of businesses keep saying that India is difficult to do business in. Many of them invest abroad rather than in India. How do you look at that space?
I still believe that India is a new land of opportunities. Today, for the first time, I'm seeing that the government is very open to ideas that can take things forward.
You, Geetanjali, on the other hand, manage joint ventures at a time when joint ventures really don't survive in India.
It was that the values between both partners were embedded in the culture of the company.
Did they take a woman at the helm of affairs easily?
The Japanese are known to be very male-dominated, both in the social sphere and in the business sphere.
But I don't
That
agree
culture
with that.
has
I don't
has
agree with that.
seeped
I
into it.
think it's about who you are.
So many awards, what do they mean to you?
It means a lot to me, especially the national awards. Because I'm a very proud Indian, To me, building brand India is very important. That's why it frustrates me and annoys me when we start devaluing the India brand.
Baatein Dil se. This is an episode which is probably a treasure, something that is for the albums, and joining me are two beautiful women, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw Geetanjali Kirloskar, both businesswomen in their own rights, both women who are trailblazers and yet have become such huge friends that business, friendship, life, philosophy all comes together. Thank you so very much for joining me on Baatein Dil se. How's life treating you, Geetu? You're the one who I see when we met last, you were dealing with tragedy and life after Vikram. Where are you today and how do you bond together like this, sitting together? I thought businesswomen didn't even tolerate each other. The boardroom battles came to the drawing room.
To start with your second part of, firstly, thank you, Navika, for your time and for this dialogue with you, Kiran and me. We both actually have been greatly looking forward to it. Let me start with the second half of your question. Kiran and I are very good friends and we've been friends for over 3 decades. In fact, Vikram was a closer friend of Kiran than she was of me. It was only after Vikram that we bonded with common trauma, and John also was, I knew John before I knew Kiran. So we were friends with each other's spouses before we became very close friends, and it spans 3 decades. In terms of boardroom battle, we have completely different sectors and businesses. We have different journeys. Kiran is an entrepreneur who has built up a huge biotechnology empire and a brand that is today truly global and international. I work with a legacy business in the manufacturing sector, specifically in the automobile manufacturing sector. And mine is more a story of a legacy business that I had to take over and drive a seamless transition across the entire 9 or 10 Japanese joint ventures that we have after Vikram's very unexpected, very sudden and very untimely demise in 2022. So to that extent, we don't really have a common ground as far as business and boardroom is concerned. I think our relationship starts and ends with sharing common hobbies, sharing moments of friendship where we give each other strength and courage to go ahead. And that's how the friendship has grown. And I must tell you on a lighter note, Kiran and Vikram were so close that it could have been a little point of envy then, because after he passed away, a few months later at one or two gatherings, and I even called Kiran and said, Kiran, do you know what people asked me? They came to me and said, how are you? 2 minutes later, they said, how has Kiran taken it? So I said, taken what? No, Vikram passed away suddenly, you know. So that's how the relationship is. Yes, Navika, it's 4 years since Vikram suddenly passed away. I think the trauma and the grief was also about shock because it was very unexpected. Everything was fine and then one morning he was gone. So I have come a long way in those 4 years. I have to say, I've built up strength and resilience. I was just reading the other day and I thought I should talk about it in this chat about this. I'm exposed to a lot of Japanese ideas, as you know, in the course of my work. So I was reading about kintsugi, which is the traditional Japanese art of repairing pottery. So whenever there is a crack in a beautiful piece of ceramic pottery, they repair it by filling it with gold. So they don't abandon it, they don't leave it, they're not ashamed about it, they don't destroy it, or they don't sort of leave it out. They actually repair the cracks with gold to enhance its beauty further. And this gold is really, I think, it's powder gold, platinum and silver powder, and it's very, very beautiful after it's repaired. So this idea is often used by people in life as a metaphor in life and in leadership, where you don't leave your cracks, you don't let the scars hurt you or harm you, you fill your scars with gold. That way you enhance their beauty and you also enhance their resilience.
It's such a beautiful thought that you bring out, and Kiran is nodding her head. Kiran, you are a czarina of the biotech field. I mean, Biocon is legendary as a company. How do women as diverse as you come together? Do you actually talk like normal people? Because people want to know that these are two powerful women, women who have built businesses, run businesses, legacy business. Yours is an entrepreneurship. Experiment in times when women probably were not accepted as entrepreneurs. Where you are today, how do you look back at life?
So first and foremost, Navika, thank you for doing this show, and it means a lot to me because it's with Geetanjali. And Geetu and I have been friends for, like she said, over 3 decades. And the way I look at it is, beneath all this veneer that you're talking about, big business women and, travel and all the kind of glitzy life that we lead, we are very ordinary women. We are women who empathize with each other. We have emotions. We connect at that emotional level. And Geetu and I got to really bond because of our personal losses, which happened within a month of each other. As she very rightly said, Vikram was a very dear friend of mine. In fact, she is right. Vikram and I used to talk to each other every morning.
Late night also.
Okay, there, maybe, did you see that?
Maybe. But every morning for sure.
You could do this.
I used to go on my morning walks, and the first thing I would do was call Vikram. And we'd always talk about something or the other. Never with Geetu. Now I do it with Geetu every morning. But, I had met Vikram very coincidentally at Dubai airport. I was on my way to the US, he was on his way back. Who knew that a week later he would not be there? And I remember taking a selfie and sending it to Geetu. And that was the day he, in fact, informed me that Mansi was expecting a second child. And he said, "Now don't tell Mansi I told you." And I said, "Of course not." But he said, and then he was telling me about how he was going to rearrange my wine cellar when I got back. And then suddenly I get this terrible call when I was in New York, in the midst of my Viatris final meeting. And Geetu gave me this news, and that, that suddenly he had this, this cardiac arrest, and that he was in hospital, and she doesn't know what's going to happen. And I, of course, immediately called up my friend Ranjan Pai to know what the status is, and I knew it wasn't looking good. So I had to cancel all my meetings on the spot. I was supposed to go to Boston the next day for an MIT meeting. I just cancelled it. I had, in fact, a meeting even with Vivek Ramaswamy, would you believe it? And I cancelled that. And I just rushed back to India. I mean, it was a shock beyond belief for me, because I had just lost John, although John had not been too well for a year or so. And so, even though I didn't expect him to go so soon, I was prepared that he was not going to be there forever. But Vikram, I mean, it was absolutely devastating for me as well. And of course, to lose my mother and then John and then Vikram all within months of each other was something I just could not accept or take, because I said, what's happening? Why have I lost all my near and dear ones? And I think at that time I realized what a devastating blow it had taken on Geetu. Because, Vikram was consoling me throughout John's illness. In fact, both Geetu and Vikram were there by my side throughout the time that John was in hospital. And then to find that Vikram is no more, I think that really got us together. Yes. And then I realized that Geetu needed a lot of strength, a lot of, support, because I was in some ways strong. I had come to terms with the fact that something terrible had happened to me, but I had also come to the terms a few years before John passed away, that John was not going to be the man I married, because he was weak, he was frail, and he was not in good health. And I knew, and John and my mother had both told me, Kiran, you have to make sure that you are strong and that you continue with doing what you're doing. But when I saw Geetu, I felt that I needed to be by her side. And that's when we bonded. And that's when I realized what she was going through, her loss.
How did you see Geetu at that time?
No, I saw Geetu as someone who was in shock, who wasn't in control of herself, who didn't know what was happening to her, who needed someone like me, whom she trusted. Because, I was such a close friend of Vikram that she knew I was a very trusted friend. And so she relied on me as Vikram's best friend to take her through this terrible time. So I did help her a lot. I used to call her how many times a day.
To make sure also at your home.
And to make sure that she was always going. I mean, I was comforting her all the time. And then I called her over. I said, come and spend the weekend with me. You need to be with someone. You need to be with me, and let's just talk about our grief very openly. Let's talk about the good times, the memories, because that's how I'm dealing with John's loss. And I think slowly then I told Geetu, I said, Geetu, I have realized that the only way of dealing with grief is to engage yourself with something which is very important. And here it's your legacy business. For me, it is Biocon. And Biocon has kept me very strong, and has allowed me to deal with my grief, because I'm so busy with addressing so many important issues within Biocon, and you need to do the same for Toyota.
So is work a great antidote?
It is. That's the right word to
Word
use.
for it, yeah. I had to, like Kiran rightly said, Navika, it was important for me to transform my grief into resolve and to have my work as my purpose. And like Kiran rightly said, that my purpose was to carry forward the business, the legacy, the partnerships, the multiple relationships with multiple stakeholders across. I had to carry that forward. It wasn't Vikram's journey alone, it was our journey together. Fortunately, in the last 10 years, I had started working with him in the family office. I was exposed to our Japanese partners on a business platform, not just a social platform. So I could step into those shoes. I must say, whilst Mansi and I worked very hard to drive a seamless transition, it was challenging because we were behind Vikram. He was a brilliant person. He was an MIT engineer, very, very brilliant, very loved and trusted over 3 decades with the Japanese partners and all the stakeholders. And suddenly you're leading from the front. But I think, yes, it did help to transform grief into resolve, to find a purpose, that of carrying the business forward with multiple stakeholders and to grow, not just carry it forward. Now, after 4 years, we look back and say it wasn't important just to carry it forward, but it was important to build, expand and grow it into more joint ventures, into more partnerships with the same Japanese partner.
But did they take a woman at the helm of affairs easily?
You know, Navika, I've been asked this question and it's extremely interesting and surprising. The Japanese are known to be very male dominated, both in the social sphere and in the business sphere. But I had absolutely no feeling or sense of any bias, even subtle, in that being a woman in business with suddenly Japanese. And I was the only woman in almost all our Japanese meetings. Even recently, I think if I'm not mistaken, when the Japanese Prime Minister visited Delhi and
Yes,
we had
you
the
were
lunch
there at that
meeting,
luncheon
and I
meeting.
looked around and I said, here again, I seem to be the only woman. So when it comes to the India-Japan platforms, you don't find too many women on either side. So that was a bit of a challenge, a bit of a self-conscious feeling for me, but I didn't see that bias in them. And I'll tell you why. I think Toyota is not strictly a Japanese company. Now it's a global, it's the world's largest auto company. So it's more of a multinational than a global company. And I think
But I don't
that
agree
culture
with that.
has
I don't agree with that.
seeped
I
into it.
think it's about who you are. You know, I think Geetu is sort of not doing
She
justice to
underplays
herself.
herself.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. So I think she is someone who's very self-assured, someone who speaks with a lot of maturity and wisdom. And I think the Japanese are people who get
They judge.
impressed with people who know what they're talking about, who have a good knowledge of the subject. And Geetu has that. So I don't think it has got to do with the Japanese being a multinational company, but it's more to do with the fact that Japanese respect any person who is intelligent, forthright, and self-assured. That's what she
Yeah,
is.
those are values that actually they do recognize. She's
But
right.
is it, do you both, I mean, in your journeys, have you felt that boardrooms are little tilted still with a bias against women?
Well, I've always
You, of course, are the queen bee now.
No, but I've always
Sets
seen
the standards.
No, I've always been the only woman in a room, like Geetu just mentioned, right from the time I started Biocon.
I
But
mean, biotechnology, how many women were there at that time?
and no one, I mean, I started it, so obviously there was no one. But even today, I mean, I'm happy that my boards have a lot of women. But I see that in many, many boards, in fact, I'm very amused that a lot of these business awards that are given, how many women get it? How many women are there? If at all we give awards, it is for the best woman entrepreneur
there's
or
a
the best
separate
woman
category,
businesswoman.
trailblazer.
You know, in fact, I was the jury of one of the recent awards, and I said to them, listen, my condition is that for every award that we are choosing, I want there to be at least 1 or 2 women in the shortlisted candidates. You know, at least I wanted to make sure that we're not only looking at a bunch of men. And I've seen this throughout my journey. I think things are slowly improving because I'm happy to see that in many startups today you have founders and co-founders and smart young women in these startup companies. But I still believe it's a man's world.
Still?
I still believe it's a man's world. I said so recently on a fireside chat that unfortunately the money is still in the hands of men. So when it's about investing in companies, they invest in men rather than women. So it's still tough for women. It's still tough for women to break into boardrooms. I don't want tokenism because that's not going to help the cause. There are lots of smart women, and I can tell you the women on my board are really strong and very respected. So I don't think there's a any kind of a debate or a reason to say that there are not enough women who can be on boards. That's absolutely wrong. So I think we have to do something about it, and all of us who are strong women need to do that.
Work towards.
But tell me something. You both are running enterprises, and successful ones. Do you have a light moment, or are you guys always serious? I just want to know.
No,
Many
my
right
God.
moments.
Do you pull each other's
many
leg?
foolish
Of
moments.
course.
Yeah.
I
Do you
play
bitch
April
about-
Fool's jokes every year on
with
all
our
my
group.
friends.
Yeah, I think with all our friends. And we're also part of different groups. So it's not just Kiran and me. We're individually part of different groups. We're both part of a wonderful group of like-minded industrialists at Bangalore who became very close after COVID and who've been of great strength to both Kiran and me. And when we spend time together, I must admit, Navika,
So this
it
is
does.
there used to be a Bombay club. Now there's a Bangalore club.
No, we are part of every club.
We are part of many clubs.
We have
individually
we have
together.
a group in Bombay. We have a
Yeah.
group in
In
Bangalore.
Bangalore.
We even have a group in Delhi.
We also have a group
in
in Delhi.
Hyderabad.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Wow.
And these
And
are.
we have a lot of fun, by the way.
And we have a lot of. And we
Because-
do a
So
lot of.
what are your
So our
conversations
fun,
like on that?
No, let me first tell you what fun we have. We take holidays galore.
Okay.
Okay, so we take little breaks. I took them to Barcelona once because, I know Barcelona very well because of John. And we had such a blast, okay. Then we've gone to Javai,
Leopard safari.
the leopard safari together. We went to Kabini several times.
And we saw the Black Panther.
And we saw the Black Panther.
Okay.
Then,
And who all are members of these groups that you
well,
you
that I'm not-
What can we do now?
Well, I
they
can
may
tell
not
you
want.
that in the business jargon, they are who's who. Okay?
Okay.
Um,
And you pull each other's leg.
Of course, all the time.
Yeah, they pull. I mean, the leg
I
pulling
mean,
is
you
a
have
lot.
no idea how we pull each other's leg.
Yeah, a lot. But I must say, Kiran, we also, and that's something I enjoy, honestly. Our evenings together, our holidays are also characterized by a lot of intellectual conversation. And I think that's also fun because we exchange our experiences. And since we're all like-minded industrialists, almost from the same scale of business, etc., we're able to dialogue and understand and, learn a little bit from each other. That helped me a lot. I could discuss some of my work, my challenges in the evening
I thought there was
over
such
a glass of
cutthroat,
wine.
competition that
Between-
nobody would give their business secrets away to another.
No, it's
isn't
just-
there
it's
isn't there
more
that
the-
kind of competition?
No, if you're a friend
so.
and you want advice, I don't think anyone views you as a threat.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing. They're all in very different sectors, Navika. That helps. There's biotechnology, ours is automobile manufacturing, somebody is in information technology and services. So it's very different. If perhaps we were on the same platform and if we were competing in the market, yes, a little bit of stress in the relationship would have come in. And I think Kiran will agree with me on this, that most of us, at least for me, I don't measure my worth against someone else's journey.
It's the quality of life that you yourself.
yes.
I don't think
We
any
have
of
our
us
own.
compare
we don't.
ourselves to
no,
each
because
other.
we don't have that attitude.
Yeah,
Kiran.
because there's no competition. It's a friendship, right? I mean, all of us are good friends. And it's about empathy. It's about understanding each other. It's about making time for each other. And it's about really enjoying each other's company. So I
and
don't...
learning.
Yeah, of course,
We
that is
accept
part
that
of it.
learning. We accept that somebody else might have done a little better or has a little more experience in a particular area so that the challenges can be shared. So and I frankly, Navika, Kiran, while the fun moments are there, but I think what I also really enjoy is the intellectual exchange. I'll be very honest, because Vikram was brilliant, and living with a brilliant man for 40 years, I do seek that intellectual conversation, the learning, the ability to share curiosity on different subjects. It's wonderful to sit with Kiran. It's wonderful to sit with that group over a glass of wine. We gossip a lot. I mean, we're women,
Yeah?
right? Oh, yeah. We love
Not
gossip.
just women, the men also gossip.
The men also gossiping, but when we
So
all
what is
sit-
your gossip like about what's happening in the US of A, what's happening in Indian politics? And
industry.
Kiran,
Wide-ranging.
Wide-ranging, yeah. It's about
sabki class.
Sabki class. And it's also sometimes about common, childhood friends that we've met, we dialogue, we discuss about it. No, actually, we enjoy these evenings, like I said, Navika, because there's fun. And for me, I think
Are these frequent?
yeah, quite frequent. Yeah, but getting everyone's date in a group like this is harrowing.
I know.
And sometimes I get very frustrated because I'll tell you one thing I think my grief has done is it's tired my nerves out beyond a point. So I just leave it to Kiran. I said if Kiran coordinates, if she organizes, then I'm not in charge.
She's doing the heavy lifting.
She does the heavy lifting and then and she has
being goaded by her.
May I let you in on a secret? Barcelona and all the other vacations, because you've been organizing, she's been going. Japan is
Oh, God.
pending. I just wanted to
You're
remind
right,
you.
you're right.
Japan is pending, and she
And she knows
over
it.
a cup of coffee told me that
Navika,
my
you're not
nerves are
supposed
frayed.
to.
I'm supposed to. Because when
No, we all have
two
told her.
women can pull each other's legs, the
I'm
third
Third
one can.
yeah, we
You're
are 3 women.
absolutely right. We have all told her and threatened her. That
not
she
now,
has
for the
to-
last 4
yeah,
years.
She has to organize.
Hold her
Japan.
to it.
No,
Hold
everybody-
her to
In
and
it.
fact, she kept telling us, "Oh, for my 60th birthday, I will take you to Japan."
60th is over. I'm
it's
61
over and,
now.
and she still has. To
I mean,
take
I can
us.
still do it because I'm 61 only in October.
Yeah,
But I don't feel like being in charge. So it's so easy for me. And Kiran is so good at it. She's so good at it that the other day, and whenever she slips by mistake, she said the other day, for my birthday, let's go here. Let's go to London. We'll stay at home. And we'll have a nice time. We have a lot of common friends. We also have a little work each there. So that can get done. I immediately jumped at it. And now I'm pursuing it feverishly so that the dialogue doesn't come back to Japan. So every time we meet, I said, Kiran's birthday, we have to travel there. It's easier, right?
How nice that, birthdays become these joint...
No, we even celebrate our anniversary is 1 day apart. Our wedding anniversary is 1 day apart and we were in Barcelona. So we both celebrated that. We took the rest of the group that came with us. We took them for a lovely dinner, had a great bottle of wine on John and Vikram because they both enjoyed fine things in life, both. And John, I will give you a memory of his. I first met John when I was in my advertising career. And he was a prospective client and I was told that we fixed your meeting with the chairman. So I was all prepared and I went.
Chairman of Madura Court.
He was chairman of Madura Courts at Bangalore at that point. And it was amazing. I walked into his beautiful, very well appointed office, colonial furniture, antiques. John loved it all. And he had an amazing collection of art and also antique pieces of furniture. And I was impressed because instead of the usual mug that we got in the best of corporate offices, here was a tray with silver service, with tea that was, separate milk, separate sugar, John gallantly getting up, pouring, serving it. And then after the half-an-hour meeting, he came and left me out to the door. And, he was a thorough gentleman. So to that extent, I think Kiran, both Vikram and John were similar. Yeah. They liked the fine things of life. They enjoyed music, classical music.
How did you meet John?
So John came to Bangalore as chairman and managing director of Madura Courts. We were both single. We both used to golf together. We used to, I love art just as John loves art. And so I started introducing him to the art world in Bangalore. Then he wanted to travel around India a bit. So I went to Rajasthan with him, with another friend. And slowly, he was a bachelor, I was single. And, we used to, every time he knew that Bangalore was a party town. So he would host maybe 1 or 2 parties a year. And he would have these large parties, but he didn't know everyone. So he would ask me to co-host it with him saying, let's get the guest list. Please help me invite everyone. Let's tell me how to, organize this dinner. So I think, and we used to meet quite often, a small group of us who befriended John.
Which year was this?
Oh, in the 90s.
Okay.
He came to Bangalore in 1991. and he left in 1997. So he was here for 6 years, and we got married in 1998.
Okay, so not while he was in
No,
Bangalore.
in fact, that was the joke, because we were such good friends and we used to meet every week for dinner, either both of us or with friends. And, you know, I used to confide in him a lot because I was at that point in time dealing with Unilever as a large conglomerate, because they were my partners. And John, being a part of a big international conglomerate, would tell me how to deal with conglomerates. And I had a lot of little issues that I would discuss with him, saying, how do you think I should deal with them in this matter or that matter? He knew nothing about biotech. So, and he was very intrigued with what I was doing. He was very curious about what I was doing. We became very good friends. I mean, you can say romantically involved, but not serious, if you know what I mean. And before we knew it,
situationship in today's
word,
yeah,
today's
maybe
generation.
what I mean, we were a number. Let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah.
So
That's our times.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
wherever we went, we were always invited together. So
Okay.
That's
to
how
that
we met.
extent. And but we never thought of even getting married, you know. And one fine morning, I remember John calling me up and said, I've got bad news. I said, what? He said, I've just been told that I'm transferred to Amsterdam. And I said, oh my God. And when are you leaving? He said, in 2 weeks. I said, that soon? He said, yeah, maybe I'll stretch it to 3 weeks, but no more. But I wasn't expecting this. So I said, oh my God, that's all I said, you know. And then, of course, we had farewell parties for John, and I had a big farewell parties for John. In fact, I had a very funny farewell party for John. It was called Tam Brams and Tarts. You know why? Because Madura quotes, so Tam Brams.
Okay.
And Tarts because he was going to Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Okay.
So everyone had to dress up like either a tart or a Tam Bram.
Or a Tam Bram.
And it was the funniest party we had, farewell party. Anyway, so John goes to Amsterdam, and suddenly I realized that we are missing each other. And most unlike John, John was very unromantic in many ways, because he was not the usual romantic guy who would call you every night or nothing of the sort.
Are you, Kiran?
I'm not either.
Ah, that's what I thought.
So suddenly I would get a call every day from John. And those were not the times of mobile phones, right? It was a landline call. And I said, hey, this guy cares about me. Why is he calling me every day? And he would tell me, and he would just sort of have a casual conversations about, you know, what's happening here, did you play golf, you know, those sort of things. Or what are you doing today, or what's on for this weekend. And then I told John that in January I was going to have a meeting with the Unilever company, which was fortunately based in the Netherlands. It was based in a place called Naarden, close to Amsterdam. So John said, hey, why don't you come a few days earlier, spend the weekend with me, and then go and attend your meeting? So I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I actually went on a Saturday morning. I landed in Amsterdam. And John had, of course, I stayed with John in his apartment. Again, as she said, he was so tasteful in everything he did that he had this elegant apartment and beautifully done up, great art, everything. And John said, oh, you know, I've planned, have a nap, and then I've planned to go down the canals in a little boat. And then we'll go and see the Van Gogh Museum, because we are both such art aficionados. And then in the evening, I booked a very nice restaurant for dinner. So I said, great. So we did all of that. And of course, at dinner time, John said to me, he said, you know, we were talking about all the things in Bangalore. And he said, you know, I wonder why we never thought of getting married. Like that.
Just like that.
And I said, yeah, I wonder why. Right, it's settled. We are getting
That's
married.
very typical, I can
Typical
imagine.
like John, you know. So I just looked at him, and then before I could say anything, he told that waiter, we've just decided to get married. Get us your best bottle of champagne. That's how he proposed.
How beautiful is that?
So that was John. And John and I had a wonderful, wonderful time together. You know, we had a 25-year journey together of wedded bliss, I would say, because he and I just enjoyed very similar things in life. You know, he was such a man of the world. I mean, he spoke fluent Spanish. He was the most gregarious person. He was, you know, Geetu will tell you that he was the life of a party. He would.
And very chivalrous. I think we women
Yeah,
often
he was
remember him taking
he
our
always
hand
would
and-
kiss everyone's
Yeah.
hand, and all these women used to feel so charmed.
It's
And
nice to have that sometimes.
and he was he was a thorough gentleman. He loved doing things very well, and I continue with that tradition even today in my home, because you know my home reflects everything of John, and it was a wonderful time. I mean, we traveled the world together, we did business together. I mean, he was the financial support for me because he was the financial brain. And he used to always jokingly say, or not jokingly, sometimes seriously say, at Biocon, we are scientifically aggressive but financially frugal. That was his Scottish frugality.
Scotsman
But he would
talking.
always encourage me to be bold, to be a risk taker. Yeah, scientifically, if it makes sense, go for it. And I remember even at the end when we were doing the Viatris transaction and he was not in good health. And I asked John, I said, what do you think? I think we should go for it. He said, go for it, but make sure you can afford it.
Or the financial
The buyout. Yeah.
And so, you know, he really understood why I was doing it. And he was all for it.
Beautiful. And Geetu, you're totally different. You're a romantic.
I'm a romantic, but Vikram was a romantic. We had a purely arranged marriage. I was very young and we courted for a year. We were introduced at a party because obviously.
You were a daughter of an IAS.
Yes. So completely different backgrounds. Navika, I came from a family of.
Adored her.
Yeah, now you know that's what I
And
really.
so it's so beautiful to sort of see from this side beautiful relationships that you remember each and every aspect of that, because now the grief probably, of course it can never be completely dealt with, but you put it in a corner of your heart or your mind, wherever it is, and then remember the beautiful moments.
Navika, what happens is if you've had a happy moment, if you've had a happy past, I think your past powers your present and your future to a large extent. I think that happens with both of us because we've had very, very happy relationships, very fulfilling marriages, a great partnership. Like Kiran said, John supported her. Here it was a little role reversal because Vikram was leading and I was supporting him. But he always enabled me to think independently. Actually, I was very young when I married. So he was very progressive. And it helped me to, I am the person I am today and I'm able to take my life forward because of the progressive nature of the man I lived with, you know. He encouraged me, he enabled me, he wanted me to have my career. Even when we were working together, I had an independent voice, though I was following him because he was leading. But
it was an arranged marriage and yet you came from different backgrounds.
Okay, I'll tell you, my grandfather was an Oxford graduate and he was very close to Vikram's grandfather, the late S.L. Kirloskar. Because I think Vikram's grandfather in the business community at that point didn't find many people who were, you know, educated. Vikram's grandfather was from MIT, one of the first Indians to graduate, an engineer. My grandfather had done literature and psychology from Oxford. So I think they connected at a very intellectual level. They had similar hobbies and interests. They had a similar value system. So they'd often sit and enjoy whiskey together. And I remember meeting my grandfather-in-law when I was much younger. And that is where the common thread started. And I think my grandfather approached Vikram's grandfather and said, you know, let the kids meet when Vikram comes back and, you know, we'd be very happy if we could have a relationship through marriage. And I was, you know, at that point when Vikram came back, I was very young. So both of us, he was also young. He just graduated a year or two after MIT and we were introduced at a party because neither of us was very keen to meet formally. We were introduced at a party and we went around for a year and Vikram proposed, very, very romantic. But those days, it wasn't so much about going outstation and proposing. So he proposed at a restaurant, his style, with a wonderful glass of wine. I was not into wine. I was too young. I didn't really understand wine. But somehow when he served it and the manner in which he served it, that was my first glass of wine. It was a Chablis, I still remember, very crisp, dry Chablis, followed by a very good year Burgundy, and he explained that to me. And I was wowed,
Okay.
It was wonderful.
You were swept off
I,
your
w-
feet.
I was actually swept off. We both went back home, and he told his parents, and his mother called up my mother and said, I'm really happy, because he was not comfortable meeting Geetanjali even at the party. And my mother said, well, my daughter was also a little apprehensive because she wants to have a career. We come from a family of professionals, bureaucrats, diplomats, private lawyers. So we believe in education. So she'd like to complete her graduation. And I was married into a very progressive family, Navika. I remember. In fact, I loved acting. And when I wanted to act in a film, my father said no. But immediately after I got married, I met Girish Karnad, and he said, would you like to act? I have a very interesting character role in a film called Chelavi, where I'm introducing Sonali Kulkarni, and we're going to shoot in Kerala for 45 days. So will you be able to come out of your family life? And when I spoke to Vikram, he said, you must do it. So like Kiran says, he was very indulgent and pampering, but it wasn't about crippling me, It was about, and it wasn't about allowing me to be independent, because, you don't take permission in that sense. It's a relationship of equals, but he enabled me. And he was very encouraging, and I needed that encouragement, because if he had not encouraged me, I wouldn't have stepped out into it. I really needed him. I needed to lean on him. I needed him to say, you must do it, you'll be good at it. And I went and did. And after I acted, naturally it came out in the media. And Vikram's family, the one thing, they were very media shy. They were reticent about being out there in the public domain and being covered. I was newly married. It was a big joint family, however progressive. You still didn't want to see all the, men or women being, it's not about men or women. They weren't very comfortable with media interface on a regular routine basis. So I was very nervous when I went to have dinner with his grandfather, because just that morning it had come in all the regional Marathi papers, and more because Kirloskar daughter-in-law. And it was wonderful, because when I went, my grandfather-in-law had kept the cutting, and all the family was sitting, and he said, wonderful, you seem to have done very well, movies, now we need to take your autograph. He was very happy. And when he said that, and when the rest of the family saw, it was those days where the head of the family leads the moment, when they saw that he was encouraging, then they also were very, they were enabling. The only thing he asked me, he said, I hope you got paid for it. Because he said, when you put in effort, that's what he believed. He said, you put in effort, you contribute value, you believe you have contributed value, you must get your remuneration for it. So I told him that this is my first film, next one I'll make sure I'm paid for. He said, do a proper contract and a proper deal. And that sealed it. But generally speaking, Kirloskars were a very progressive family.
Yeah.
Very progressive.
I've studied in Maharashtra.
Yes,
I've studied
Maharashtrians
in Pune.
are actually
Maharashtrians,
are very
in terms
progressive.
of, their cultural awareness and cultural pursuits, women being treated as equals is an important part of that.
Oh, yes. And even if it's a woman running a home, she has a voice. She's not doing it very demurely. Also, I then completed my graduation in commerce, economics and accounting, and I did a course in computer data programming at London. And again, very encouraging, very enabling. I wouldn't, Navika, there's no point in my saying that I could have done it anyway, because I'm essentially not a very, in that sense, a very bold person. I'm not a rebel. So I wouldn't have done it if I had not found,
I completely understand
an enabling
what you're
home
saying.
and an enabling.
Yeah, we just follow the conventions.
Yeah, I did. I did at least. So I could finish. Yeah, that's it. So there,
You are a trailblazer.
Yeah.
No, I was totally unconventional.
She was from the beginning.
Brewmaster.
Yeah.
You were a brewmaster, the only woman brewmaster at that time. I mean, how did that happen? What was that phase?
So that was thanks to my father, my late father. He was a brewmaster. He used to be the managing director of United Breweries. And, I finished my BSc zoology honors. And then I came to the crossroads saying, what next? And I went to my dad and I said, I've got a admission in a PhD program in London for genetics, but I'm not so sure I want to do that. I want to actually see if I can do something in applied science and start a career based on science. So, what do you think I should do? That's how I went to my dad. And my dad said, "Why don't you do brewing?" So I said, "Are you nuts? I'm a girl. I mean, why should, it's not the right profession for a woman." And he's the one who said to me, "Why are you bringing gender into this?" He said, "Do you know what is brewing? Brewing is fermentation science. It is microbiology. It is biotechnology." And I know you keep talking about biotechnology. Brewing is the oldest biotechnology known to man. Why wouldn't you do it? He's the one that convinced me to go to Australia and pursue brewing. And he somehow gave me that sudden new idea that, yeah, maybe he's right. It's unconventional, but maybe it's a good idea. That's how I went to Australia, and I, topped my class in Australia as a master brewer. In fact, a lot of my colleagues in Australia said to me, "Why are you going back to India?" In fact, all of us have been offered jobs by Australian breweries. Why aren't you accepting one of them? I said, "No, I've thought about it, because in Australia, I'll have to start on the lowest rung in a brewery. But if I go back to India, I'll be one of the few. And I'm sure I'll get a pretty good job right almost at the top." So that was my aspiration and ambition. So I said, "No, I'll get a much higher role to play in a brewery than in Australia." So that's why I want to go back. And actually, when I came back to India, my father met me at the airport and said, "Hey, you know something? There's a job waiting for you." And I said, "Wow, what's that?" He said, I've just won a contract to commission a new brewery in Calcutta." And I told them that my daughter has to be my assistant. And they agreed. So I actually went with my father to Calcutta, and I commissioned a brewery called Jupiter Breweries. It was on Diamond Harbour Road, I still remember.
Wow.
And I worked night and day. I used to go at all odd hours of the day and night to commission that brewery. I did so much. I was in overhauls. I would, go with a spanner. I could fix pipes. I could with wrenches and things like that, okay? I did all of that. I even brewed the first beer. And the owners of that brewery were very happy with the beer. I remember it was called the Royal Bengal Lager or something. And they loved it. And then I said to them, "So I hope I've got the job." Because that was my ulterior motive, right? And they kept their heads down and they said, "I'm really sorry, but we've appointed someone else." That someone else was a man. And I said, "Why?" So I said, "I've commissioned your brewery. You like the beer." They said, No, but this is not a woman's job." They said, "Much as we admire what you've done and thank you for what you've done, this is not an environment for a woman." I said, "Why? I'm happy with it. I'm quite okay with it." My father also tried to appeal on my behalf, but they had made up their minds. And then, of course, after that, brewery after brewery after brewery said no, and they gave me the same reasons. So that was my introduction.
And you said, "I'm not going to do this anymore and I'm going to create something."
No, I had got a job abroad in Scotland, in fact, interestingly, full circle. But I was actually on my way to Scotland to take up a job when I had this accidental encounter with an Irish biotech entrepreneur who had tracked me down. Thankfully, because of my internship that I had done at an Australian brewery, and the brewer under whom I had done the internship told the founder of Biocon in Ireland, "You should go and meet Kiran," because he wanted to start a company in India.
In India.
And that's how he tracked me down and made this proposal. And the first thing was, "No, not me. I'm not the right partner." I said, "I have no business background. I have nothing to invest in a business. And I've just been told that this country is not a good country for women. So, not me." But then he convinced me, and that's how I started Biocon.
In 1978.
Yes.
Do you think women have come a long way since then?
A very long way. Because when I started Biocon in 1978, were few and far between. And today, if you look at women and how they've excelled in every field, did we ever have a women's cricket team? No.
That is amazing, actually.
Did we have a football team? Did we have women
Scientists
as
in
space
ISRO,
scientists,
more
as
women
rocket
scientists.
scientists, as biotechnologists, as AI,
Manufacturing, engineering, also on the shop floor
engineers,
today. you have
software
women.
engineers?
But
No.
if you see a percentage
It's
of
still very
total
low.
employment,
It is.
it's still abysmal.
I
But
would
it's
say as a
growing.
percentage it is small, but let's.
At least
You
it's
asked me, have
coming
we
in.
come a long way?
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, from
Because-
0 to some 24%, yes.
But I think what is interesting is that every woman who has excelled in every one of these fields is being called out, right? And they are becoming role models for more women to follow them. So I feel, yes, it's a slow process. It should have been a faster process. But at least we should be thankful for these bold women who have taken those steps to excel in these very unconventional fields.
But Geetanjali, you have a daughter as well. And how do you see the generation that you came from to her? She's now a young mother, a professional on the boards of companies, married into the Tata families. What is the worldview for women that you share with her?
Navika, Mansi has been working with our companies, with Toyota Kirloskar, immediately after her graduation, because Vikram wanted her to understand the shop floor culture and, very importantly, the values that drive the partnership and the relationship, because that's very, very important in the context of our joint venture businesses. All our businesses are joint ventures. And she did that. But after that, she was also very clear on one thing. She said, I want to be a mother first. So this is something I did find in her. Maybe it's a characteristic of her generation. I think they like to balance their roles.
Work-life balance.
They believe in the work-life balance. They are very immersive mothers. I think she's a much more immersive parent than I was. I always had a career. From advertising, it moved to working in the family company with Vikram, with the joint venture partners. I independently set up 1 or 2 joint ventures. So that helped, because later they'd already seen me in the business sphere. But I'm not sure if I could achieve the balance. Because even though it was my older generation and I should have been better at that balance, I found that sometimes I let work take over and I perhaps missed out on parenting moments that should not have been missed out on. I was too career focused, I feel. But Mansi, even though she's the next generation, she's very, very clear on her work-life balance. She's very clear that alongside her career development, she will always prioritize and focus on being a very immersive parent and being part of their journey every moment. There are little things that she just wouldn't miss out on. So that's one thing that I have noticed in her as being the next. Second, I think there's clarity, greater clarity of thought than I had at her age. They are very, very focused. They know what they want. They know how to get there. Most of them, the ones that I've been engaged with. I mean, I meet a lot of these startup kids in Bangalore. I spend many evenings with them because it's a learning for me. So I meet them, I try and understand what makes them work. After all, we're in the business of manufacturing and marketing cars. It's a consumer product. So it's good to know how the young generation thinks. And I spend time with them. And the ones I meet, perhaps I meet the more focused ones, but I find they're more focused than the focused kids in my generation. There is a sort of opening of the mind. They're ready to accept new ways of doing business, new ways of living. They look at marital relationships differently, but they're quite how should I say, committed to parenting. I find this. I find a lot of these young girls I meet are pregnant, they're expecting, and they're reading up a lot on it. They're very careful about their diet. They've got plans on how they're going to bring up the kids already. And one thing, Navika, we were a lot more lenient with our kids. These children, especially Mansi and a lot of my friends tell me that their daughters and sons are like that. They're quite strict about following a schedule. They must sleep in time. There's literally like sometimes an Excel sheet, isn't it? No sweet till they're 5 years old, no salt. Kiran knows because Kiran is very close to her grand niece and nephew. And we often exchange grandmother. That's another platform we now connect on. Yeah. We speak about grandparenting. We are single grandmothers, don't forget. In her case,
I'm also in the club.
You're in the club. Grandnephew, grandniece-in-law. So there is that difference. There's greater clarity, there's greater focus. There's a greater need to be a more immersive parent, and the work-life balance certainly they are very, very keen to ensure that they have a work-life balance.
Yeah, and
You know,
you are in the process, or rather process of grooming your
niece.
niece to take over, Claire. um, what do you see in this generation, which probably, as Gitu says, we didn't have in our generation? What is it that you see different? What are the advantages? I mean, of course, they have a lot more exposure than we did at our times. Internet has collapsed the world in terms of distance, but other than that.
No, in my niece's case, of course, she's, when I look at her, obviously, I see a much more augmented form of me, because you know she's so highly qualified. I'm not so highly qualified compared to her. She's even proved herself to be a great entrepreneur. You know, she has a family. I didn't have to have a. I was not dealing with a family when I was building Biocon. And you know, she's, like Gitu said, she and her husband both are very good parents.
They're very, both the
and
parents are involved
and they
equally.
are very involved in ensuring that they spend a lot of time with the kids. I mean, they love hiking and biking, and you know, my, in fact, I feel that Claire's husband is a very good father, and because he knows Claire needs a lot of support,
Yeah.
he provides that support. But I think Claire is a very smart woman. She's proved herself, and I'm just so happy that I have someone like her to hand over the baton to.
A lot of people, a lot of businesses keep saying that India is difficult to do business in. Many of them invest abroad rather than in India. How do you look at that space?
So I certainly believe that we need to improve ease of doing business. It is very complicated. The kind of hoops you have to go through to start any business to begin with, the kind of compliances that you have to deal with in any business is onerous. I think some of the rules and regulations of serving on boards, or working in companies and leadership teams, I think we have to re-look at some of this. You have to decriminalize a lot of these things. So I think it is tough to, you know, really, serve on a board or work in a company in India or start a company. And I think we cannot delude ourselves into feeling that, oh, we've improved a lot over the last 10 years, but I think a lot more can be done. So that's a fact. It is very tough to run a business in India. But I still believe that India is a new land of opportunities. Okay, if you thought US was the land of opportunity, I think India provides that land of opportunities, because I am very optimistic that the kind of technological advancements we are making, of course, in digital technology, in AI, in space tech, in robotics, and of course in biotech, I believe we have a great talent pool. The real challenge we have is to create the enabling ecosystem and the right ecosystem. I still believe that in our field of biotech and life sciences, we haven't created the investment cycle required to attract more venture capital, because venture capital needs access to capital markets, and we are not providing them that access, because that exit is required if they are going to seriously invest in startups. So startups are getting a lot of support from the government and from angel investors, but they get stunted because there's not enough follow-on venture capital. So I think a lot has to be done. But having said that, I think today for the first time I'm seeing that the government is very open to ideas that can take things forward.
The due importance to innovation.
Yeah. I'm really excited with that. I mean, the government has done its bit. It has walked the talk in terms of the innovation grants, the research incentives, and creating the national, the ANRF. So all that is very, very positive. And I think when I talk to the policy makers and to the sort of the people within the government, ministers, they are very receptive to a lot of the suggestions we make. Some of it has already been implemented, others are in process, but it gives me a lot of hope.
You, Gitanjali, on the other hand, manage joint ventures, and you have been managing them beautifully at a time when joint ventures really don't survive in India. How do you manage to do that? What is that extra bit that it takes to make it survive the way the Toyota Kirloskar bonding has gone on?
I will share this response in a slightly lengthier manner. Um, Vikram was credited with bringing Toyota to India, as we know. In 1995, our very first joint venture was not for automobiles with the Toyota Group, but it was for textile machinery in 1995, specifically the manufacturing ring spinning machines and components. Then in 1997 came the car company, Toyota Kirloskar Motor, passenger vehicles. After that, another 5 to 6 joint ventures with the same group. We grew transmissions and e-drives. Ison joined the partnership at that point. Then with Denso air conditioning systems. We even have a joint venture with Toyota Industries for manufacturing engines right here in Bangalore, including hybrid engines. We have another joint venture about 8 years back with Toyota Industries for material handling equipment and forklifts. We even have a joint venture with the Toyota Group, with Toyota Susho Corporation for insurance brokerage. So the partnership and the joint ventures grew not just in the automobile and auto sector, but they grew even beyond that to other businesses that the Toyota Group had. In fact, we even set up the first India-Japan hospital in Bangalore in collaboration with Toyota Susho Corporation and Secom in Japan. And I had invited, and that was my project with the Japanese, both that and the insurance business, because by then I had joined the family business. I had left my advertising career 10, 15 years back, which was just as good. And I remember inviting Kiran to do a walkthrough. She was the first guest, the chief guest visitor that we invited to the hospital. And we wanted to have a critique view because she did come from the domain of biotechnology. So all these joint ventures, about 7 or 8. Now, not only did the partnership grow and sustain over 3 decades with Vikram, but after the crisis and after his untimely, unexpected demise, and after Mansi and I took over driving a seamless transition, we have announced more investments in manufacturing, expanding our manufacturing facility, and signed up 2 new joint ventures in the retail space with the same Japanese group. So how did that happen? How did the joint ventures firstly come about, and what makes them sustained? This I will answer in brief. I think when Vikram approached Toyota and when he met Toyota Industries and started with the textile machinery JV, at that point, Navika, Toyota was and still is the world's largest automobile company. Kirloskar Group was India's largest manufacturing company. So there was a huge difference in scale. One was huge and one was big in India. They were manufacturing cars, so they were in the consumer business to that extent. Kirloskars were manufacturing diesel engines, pumping sets, gen sets, with projects all over the world. So we knew how it was to work with international partners and stakeholders and customers beyond your country. I think what the synergy was, one, both were manufacturing groups. Both had a very strong shop floor culture, and I think that is key to this partnership. That really was the beginning of the relationship, the reason the 2 groups came together. Very strong shop floor culture. From there, Vikram further built it up with the Japanese. The Toyota production systems, as we learned, are characterized, they're based on values of trust and respect. And we are part of a supply chain. So translating it into simple business practice, very simple, the company trusts and respects the supplier that he will deliver to spec, to the high quality standards at the price that is committed within time. The supplier trusts the company that they will accept his product as committed and pay him on time. And there's another very interesting idea of respect when I say on the shop floor culture, which was common between Kirloskar and Toyota. Every worker is authorized to stop work on the production line if he finds a defect, so that the defect doesn't go to the next step. He is empowered. And these values were very, very similar to the shop floor culture and values of Kirloskar. And those were manifested, embodied and carried forward by Vikram. There are many other values.
And
of-
also, traditionally, I think
both are
the
legacy brands also.
legacy
Yeah.
brands and not frequent changers. It's like a commitment is a commitment.
Absolutely.
And I
for-
think
There's a
the
traditional-
underlying
Yeah.
foundation is trust.
Yes, that is very
The
important.
Japanese
Work
really
on
base a
trust.
lot on trust.
Yeah. So Mansi told me after Vikram passed away, she said, whilst both of us have worked with them, we've not worked with them without Papa. So she said, what is very important is for us to continue to invest in building that trust. And that trust is across. I mean, it's built into the ecosystem and culture of the company. And that is why it was so important for me every time I said that I must carry forward the business on Vikram's values and in his manner, because he had managed that trust very well.
You talk about trust, and both Biocon and your company, Toyota Kirloskar, bring that trust. But not many Indian companies in their product are creating that value of trust with the consumer, or for exports to other countries and all. Where do you think we are going wrong in that model?
So I think, I do believe that a large number of Indian companies should be trusted because they are making very good products. But it depends what you want to amplify as your message to the world. If it's only about expanding your business and becoming bigger and bigger, and it's about the market cap of your company and how you're very successful, and I find that a lot of companies get very carried away with building that brand of greatness through wealth creation or personal wealth creation. I have never really believed much in being the richest woman in India or the most powerful woman
doesn't
in
matter.
India. It's a nice acknowledgement, but it's not important to me to that extent. You
That
know what I
can't
mean?
be your mission.
For me, it is about wealth creation, value creation, not even wealth creation, it's about value creation. I've always believed that what Biocon needs to be is a value-led company creating a lot of value for the country and for shareholders. That's the way I portray my business. And if you want to create value, it's about credibility, it's about really building a strong brand of quality and respect and trust. That's what it's about. And that's why whenever anything is made from Biocon, they know it's reliable, it's trustworthy, it's high quality. And that's the way I built the company. Not everybody has built the company that way. They want to take shortcuts. They want to, make sure that they are ahead all the time by hook or by crook. If that's your way of building your company, then you will cut corners. You will compromise. Not all companies do that, but some of them do get into trouble.
And that's how probably we get a bad name.
And that's how
perhaps.
we get a bad name,
Yeah.
because I've realized one thing. You do things well and you do things in a very compliant way, it's boring. Nobody talks about you. But you make one mistake,
When you deviate,
everybody will focus on that.
absolutely, and we've experienced
And
that.
I've
also.
experienced that, okay? I lead my life with such high integrity. And I still remember that when I was on the board of Infosys, I had decided that from a good governance point of view, I should not have shares on the company that I should not buy shares and trade shares on the company's board which I serve. So I said to my finance manager, I said, who manages my personal money, I said, I have a small shareholding of Infosys. Just make sure you sell it so that I don't have any problem of trading and this and that and what have you. Small amount. So he said, fine. And without checking with me, he went and ordered the trader to sell those shares. Now, he should have checked with me about, is this the close period, open period, all that he didn't check. And he went and sold some, I think it was around 2 lakh worth of shares or something. Okay. And immediately I realized what he had done and I reported it to the, first to the board and then to Sabhi, saying, I've done the wrong thing because I sold without taking permission. It's not also about closed or open, it's about taking permission from the company to sell. I said, I didn't follow due process, I've not been compliant, and whatever you need to do, do it. So as per the company law, they had to penalize me. I had to pay 1.5 times the amount I traded. So I had to pay like 3.5 lakhs or whatever. Okay. Um, or whatever it was. So I had to pay that amount as a fine. So I didn't make any money. In fact, I sold the shares also at a loss. It wasn't like it was sold at a profit. So everything was, it clearly indicated that it was unintentional. But do you think I got away with it? Kiran Mazumdar, see, even she does these things. Insider trading. She has tried to sell these shares. Oh my God, even if today you do a Google and do something about anything that Kiran Mazumdar has done, this thing will pop up. Even though I settled everything, I paid my dues, I didn't have any shares left. But this is what happens, right? When you have an impeccable...
You're under
the lens all the time.
But that comes with being,
But that's what it's about. So your reputation has to be guarded
you also.
Very, very strongly.
Carefully. That's the wealth you've created.
Yes.
And that's
your reputation is your wealth.
And Navika, that's what held our joint venture together, to answer your question. It was that the values between both partners were embedded in the culture of the company. That helps you to drive a high quality product, improve productivity, and finally deliver value to both the customer and the investor.
Yeah, so and you're not out there to make a fast buck, and that's not the reputation.
And that's why both the joint venture companies, whether it's Kirloskar or my Japanese partner, you see that they've sustained over a century, and they're continuing to be strong in their domains. It's because of these values embedded into their culture.
I think values are very important, Navika, and you rightly said that.
And in friendship also, because you see, we are different people, we are different personalities, we are in different age bands, completely different sectors.
Do you have any disagreements?
Of very often. I often tell her about how extravagant she is.
No, I have to tell you this.
What are you extravagant about?
No, this is very interesting. Now Kiran's got me on to that. So we have a group of industrialist friends in Bangalore, and we've all known each other and individually for over 3 decades. So we have a lot of love. And I must tell you this, Navika, we are very different people. We are in different age bands. We have different lifestyles, like Kiran and I. And we have different sectors of business. We are at varying levels of prominence and achievement in our individual businesses, but we are bound by a set of common values. Yeah. And that is why we are very bonded and we deeply respect each other.
And very high integrity.
That's what. One of the values is integrity, very high integrity. Now,
so you're saying that two of you don't bitch about the others in the group?
No, not about bitch about
bitching. No, this I have to tell you. This is very interesting. So you said about us having difference. Now, this group, one of the integrity values of this group is they don't like to be extravagant. They tend to be frugal. See, I am very frugal when it comes to my business. I'm very, very budgeted and very correct. Yeah. In fact, right now we're planning fixed cost optimization across our businesses. So there I have a different mind. But in my personal life, yes, I like good things. I like to buy, beautiful clothes, bags and shoes.
I want to go with her. Because she shops in New York, I will never be able to buy the things she buys.
She can buy me out, but that's another thing.
I won't, my conscience will tell me, no, this is too expensive. But no, you just asked me about that. So where do we not agree? We agree on most things. Okay,
sometimes the values, the approaches.
Sometimes if she's doing something, and she wants advice, what do you think I should do? I was planning to do this. I might say, look, I really think you should try this other approach. Those kind of things I might give her. But by and large, we agree on most things.
I think our approach is common,
our
Kiran.
Approach is
and
very
without
common.
That unity of values and vision, the relationship won't sustain, Navika. It only sustains.
Are they very formal get-togethers? Like when you guys talk, is it like an impromptu thing?
A lot of it is impromptu.
Impromptu works better with this group. You can't plan ahead because something will come up for somebody. Travel will come up. A meeting with PMO might come up. They're all people of that prominence and stature. So it works best when we do it at the last minute. Some of us.
What I must tell you is that we enjoy each other's company.
The whole group.
We are foodies and we love wine.
Yes, and travel and art and everything. So
are you different people in the boardrooms and different in these personal spaces.
I'm sure we are, because each one of us has a different boardroom to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure that, our fiduciary responsibilities are very, very important to all of us. And I think good governance is very important to all of us. And that's how we lead our...
We carry forward the value system to the boardroom, Navika. But I think even for me, like Kiran rightly said, there is a much higher level of seriousness, severity when I'm in the boardroom. I'm a lot more cautious about what I say because I'm in a joint venture situation. So it's not just about me. I have to respect the boundaries. So yes, in my case, I would say I'm quite a different person.
I think I'm a very good
Yeah,
boss.
very good bosses.
I'm a very people's person, because I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I empower people, I enable people. I'm not a micromanager, but I'm very engaged. So people can't fool me. So I know what's going on. And if people say something to me which I know is not correct, I'll take them on. I'm a tough boss, but I'm a good boss and I'm a fair boss. I want to be a fair boss. I don't want to be a good boss. I want to be a fair boss.
One doesn't want, it's like a captain of a class, you don't want cheap popularity, but at the same time, compassionate. And I think Kiran is, from whatever I know of the people who work with her.
So many awards, what do they mean to you? I mean, I think Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan se shuru karke down to business awards that you've got.
No, I think each award is very meaningful and special because it's a recognition, it's an acknowledgement of something that it's not about me personally, but I basically get recognized for my whole team, right? But it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me, especially the national awards. Because I'm a very proud Indian, I'm a very proud national. I could have left India. Even right now, I was telling someone, I could have easily cashed out and said, enough, yeah, I've done my good job, I'd like to go. But I haven't. Because I want to build a global biopharma business out of India, a leading global biopharma business out of India. To me, building brand India is very important. That's why it frustrates me and annoys me when we start devaluing the India brand. We are not doing enough to build a very strong India brand.
What do you think we should do?
I think we stand for a lot of things. I mean, we stand for technology, we stand for quality, even though people keep deriding us on poor quality. We stand for talent, we stand for high tech, we stand for good values, good culture, and look at the kind of history we enjoy. But we haven't said it well. I think the articulation of what India should project itself as in terms of being a very mature world leader is not coming through. Because we start focusing on the wrong things, or we let others focus on the wrong thing. I mean, yesterday I was reading this bit by a historian, an international historian, who said, do you know that India was the cradle of civilization, not Mesopotamia? And he's actually done his historical analysis and research.
Not a known fact, popularly
and
known
yet,
fact.
We are not even bringing that to the world. I mean, everything is viewed from the Western lens. And I believe that the time has come for us to really start introspecting and articulating the right things about India.
Set benchmarks.
But do you think there is a...
it's not about our past, it's about the future and the present.
But in the present, do you think anybody, can go back? Because anybody who wants to bring out the civilizational...
No, I don't even want civilizational thing to come out in that way. I don't think we need to articulate.
It's the strength of our
It's
tradition.
about what the civilization has developed us into, right? I mean, today I'm very ashamed of the fact that we are the dirtiest country in the world. I'm sorry. The garbage, the litter, the bad
Waste
habits,
management.
the way we even look at our environment, and we don't respect each other even when we look at each other's territories, it's really bad. So I'm really ashamed that, the Prime Minister, when he came out with the Swachh Bharat initiative, I was so happy because I said, now that the Prime Minister has, raised this as a big issue for the country, I'm sure the country will get cleaned up. But it hasn't. it means it's in us not to clean up.
So Kiran, isn't that an individual thing also?
No, it's a collective
Yeah.
civic mind,
Yeah,
lack
as
of
is
civic
the lack of
mindedness,
civic
right?
sense, yeah.
So the civic sense in India is very poor.
Needs to
I
be
feel.
developed.
But we expect the governments to do this.
Is that correct? No. In fact, I chair a Bangalore Political Action Committee where we are actually saying this is about civic responsibilities. It's not always about the government. That's why Bangalore is the only city where citizens work with
Yeah,
the
there's a
government to
citizen
solve
platform.
problems.
Yeah. And that's why it attracts more FDI.
I mean,
even
that's
today, I
why
think.
that's why I keep commenting and criticizing, and the government doesn't mind it.
No,
In
but
fact,
we
I've
have a
just
very
been
strong
appointed, by
citizen
the
drive.
way,
Yeah.
to the advisory committee for
The CM.
GBA. I mean, for the CM's
Yeah, in
development,
Bangalore.
the
We're all-
city development
Yeah.
agenda.
So we're doing a lot of work in our individual capacities, Navika, to support the
Can we
state
invite
governments.
you to other parts of the country which
No,
need
we have
attention?
too much to be done in Bangalore.
I'm trying to do it in another state. We've just announced a very big expansion of
She can go
manufacturing
to
in
other
Maharashtra.
states.
But Kiran is, yeah. So I do between Karnataka and Maharashtra, whatever we can contribute,
There's so much
bringing
to
in
be done in
investment.
Bangalore. You've seen it. Traffic, garbage, roads. I mean, you name it. You know, we have a lot to do.
And we
And we are
enjoy,
going to do
yeah,
it.
we enjoy doing it. You
So-
find a lot of citizens.
No, we are going
spending
to do it,
a lot of
and
time.
you will see that in probably
Next visit,
a year or maximum 2.
see a
There will be a
visible
huge
change.
difference.
Yeah, and we want the change to be visible and measurable. So even as part of the Karnataka Investment Forum, we're
So
trying
I think citizens have to make their
Participate.
forums and
Civil
and
society
do
has
this,
to
and,
engage.
and that's when the pressure on the government to partner also comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know,
there's
just
a
to
pull from the people.
yeah, actually, Indians are they remove the garbage from front of their house to their
throw
neighbor's
it-
house.
yeah.
And throw it next door.
Yeah, because and then they don't realize it's the same road. So whoever's coming here is looking at that as well.
And Navika, I think a lot of this will also come with more education, you know. Little
I
bit.
don't-
I
I
think
don't
so. I
believe
don't
that,
know.
you know.
It's a
We've tried
socio-cultural
Educated people
inhibition.
behave
I
badly.
also, Indians, no? But they're okay when they're out of India.
Yeah.
They're okay when
I
they're
think that's
outside.
the problem. As
They're
soon
very-
as the Indian steps out of India, they're very
The-
obedient,
the
very
civic sense is
disciplined,
very developed.
High civic sense.
Is it because they see the ecosystem around and that's, you know, they don't want to be seen as wanting in a highly developed
I mean,
civic
we
sense?
don't even drive
maybe.
in a civilized
No,
and
we
disciplined
must change
manner.
lanes.
Oh, but they drive very well when we're outside India. A
Yeah,
lot of my friends.
yeah.
Yes, you know, you have
They
to
We follow the rules.
they
Here we don't follow
and they
the
follow the
rules.
rules to the T because they know what will happen if they deviate. So
I know.
you can't afford to do that.
And students protesting, you know, there is a call also that, of course, nobody should be beaten up or no atrocity should take place. But then they say no FIRs on students who have beaten up policemen. Only, you know, action should be taken on policemen. I mean, is that fair? Is that the law?
I mean, one doesn't know what's happening, okay? I think in all these protests, bad things do happen, injustices do happen. I don't think, you know, anyone is in a position to say what is right and what is wrong. I mean, if FIRs are being, you know, created on obviously in every country, anyone, when you attack a police, you file an FIR. But is it the other way around? Not really.
Not really.
So I think that's where the whole anger and frustration stems from. But I'm just saying that as a country, I think we need better governance. We need better discipline and civic sense, because once we have all of that, we will become a much more manageable country. Otherwise, we just
Unruly.
are unruly.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's how
and
I
there are
find
lots-
it. I mean,
lots of
I
us.
just, this is a microcosm of the country in a way, because there's politics at play, there is civic disobedience at play, there is civic irresponsibility at play. There's so much at play, you know. How do you deal with all of that? And we are such a large country.
So if
So
economic,
the numbers are just unmanageable.
Boggling
1 billion, and if economic progress can go hand in hand with the
Now we are talking
sustainably
about
developed
jobs
society,
and joblessness.
yeah, then
How do we
that
deal
that
with that?
really would
So I think if we all realize what are the big challenges ahead, you know, I think that would diffuse a lot of the issues that we are all fighting about.
Let me do a rapid fire round
Oh God.
at the end of
I
this
was-
show.
Oh good. Anyway, this is not live, so it's okay.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you would want to do differently if you were to go back and start life, maybe since you were 20? The one thing that you'd change.
Movie star, Bollywood. I loved acting.
Okay. So you would have.
Going back pre-marriage days, I was offered a role by Muzaffar Ali when I was 16, and my father didn't even tell me, and he said no. So that could have been the beginning of a big career, and maybe Kiran would have not been just a close friend. She might have come to me for my autograph.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I still want your autograph.
Oh, how sweet is that? What would you go back in time and change?
I think, if I knew I wasn't going to be a brewer, I wanted to be a doctor, actually.
Yeah.
That was my original intention. But if I didn't know, if I knew that I couldn't get a brewing job, maybe I would have pursued a scientific vocation. I mean, not vocation, I always wanted to do applied science. So maybe I would have done something else. And I would have probably done biotechnology rather than brewing. And I would have probably done an MBA because if I wanted to start a company, which I never did, So if I look back at my life saying, what if I had done biotechnology? What if I had an MBA? Could I have built Biocon faster? Because I think I've taken a long time to build Biocon. I may have been able to do it faster if I was more business savvy.
Such exacting standards that.
But
she's
Navika, did you
raising.
see again the difference in what we wanted to be? I would have wanted to pursue a more creative profession, acting, producing, scripting. I love to write. So perhaps I would have made my journey in that domain had I an option at that time. In our generation, often you didn't have an option. And I was quite happy to pursue marketing and advertising because I was a people's person. I enjoyed communication. I had the opportunity of working with Lintas worldwide, so it was outside the family business domain. You learned how to evolve as a professional on your own merit, and that learning I carried forward when I joined the family business later with Vikram, and that's really helped me in my journey with my joint venture partners as well, because I developed and evolved as a professional. Kiran, on the other hand, would have chosen biotechnology, a greater, stronger learning in that domain. So you see, as good friends, we do have that.
Yeah, we are so diverse.
Yeah, we're different. In so
I'm
many
very
things.
science driven, that much I'll tell you. So I wish
And she's arts driven.
Yeah,
creative.
I'm very
Yeah, I
science
enjoyed
driven.
the
I wish
creativity,
I'd
even in my work.
had a deeper insight into science than I did. But today, of course, I read a lot about science, so I am catching up on.
So Vikram and I, that's how we blended, and maybe that's how Kiran and I do, I don't know. But he was the technical, he was an
Whiz-kid.
engineer, and he was an MIT engineer. Like Kiran says, she would have liked to be a biotechnologist.
And we had a lot of common friends in MIT.
Yeah, so and I was a people's person, so in terms of human resource development and marketing and communication, I augmented him. So sometimes I think in a relationship, it might help to be have very differing skills that may be contradictory but are also complementary. And that I think sustains the strength and power of a relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship. Yeah, we also love the other things.
Since you talk about art, your favorite artist?
My favorite artist? Well, in India, I think I have enjoyed Hussain Saab's work. I know that sounds cliched, but I've really enjoyed his work. And in the last 8 years, Navika, regardless of the name of the artist, Vikram and I traveled within India, and we just picked up pieces that we enjoyed. So sometimes a lot of the art that you see here, I'm not even sure if I really know the name of the artist. Amongst the classical artists, we loved Madhav Satorikar. We inherited a lot of those paintings, and that was the time when we actually liked conventional art. Later, our tastes changed. We went to Hussain Saab, and of late, in the last few years, we've been just picking up local art that we love. When we travel to Delhi or Bombay or Kinkini here in Bangalore, Premila Bade's gallery, Kiran knows her very well. So they often call us, and we tend to pick up just young artists. It's also our way of promoting them, of having them home with us.
New talent
New
must
talent.
be promoted.
But more
Kiran,
modern.
your favorites?
Well, I have very common favorites in India, which Geetu talked about. Hussain Saab was a very dear friend of mine, and I really used to be very inspired by his art. And then, of course, I've picked up a lot of art over the years. From the old Jamini Roys to
Souzas,
Anjali Ila Menon, Souzas, you name it, Jogen Chaudhary, all of them. But when I look at international art, I was introduced to international art by John. And of course, we have a lot of Scottish art, and some of our favorites are an artist called Archie Forrest. But I want to tell you about Jaume Plenza. He's a very, very famous Spanish sculptor, and I commissioned him to do a very, very, impressive and mind-blowing sculpture which is now displayed at the BIAL, that is the Bangalore International Airport, at Terminal 2 at the arrivals area.
I think Navika could see it next time.
You should look at it.
Make it a point to go see it.
It is amazing. Jaume Plenza is an international artist of repute. His sculptures are found everywhere in the world, from New York to Tokyo to Stockholm to London to you name it. Of course, in Barcelona, Madrid, and all the Spanish cities. But he had never done anything in India. And he came on his first visit to India and he said, "Why don't you commission me to do something?" And we just inaugurated it a few months ago in April. It is an amazing sculpture. It is about 20 feet tall. You can walk into the sculpture, and he's called it Bengaluru Soul. And he's
alphabets.
And it's a figure with mini figures on the shoulders to denote the talent pool in Bangalore and the technological strength of Bangalore. So it's an engineering feat in that sense, because it's all joined up with Kannada alphabets of all parts of the world, including Kannada, Hindi, Japanese, English.
Amazing.
All the languages of the world, which tells you the multicultural, cosmopolitan feel of Bangalore. And then it's interspersed with mathematical symbols.
That's his style, signature style.
Of pi, theta, infinity, and all the various mathematical symbols. So it's a fabulous piece of sculpture, and I'm very happy and proud that I commissioned
And for
him.
all those who land at Bangalore Airport, I think it's a must to go see it. And a lot of the art that you see in the house, Navika, is collected over 35 years. And it's collected, so there's a story, whenever we traveled anywhere, we went to a small French village, or it was in Europe or in America, India, we'd go and find local artists, local galleries, and just pick up what we loved.
It's actually building of a home.
It's building of a home. Yeah. And we picked up art that we just loved.
I think
it didn't
that
matter.
Was another bond
the name didn't matter.
That we had, because John and I and Vikram and Geetu love art, and
the manner in which we purchase art also. It's not just picking up a name at a show.
It's not a financial decision, it's an emotional decision.
It's an emotional, and it's just, we just would walk through the villages and the little art galleries and pick up some beautiful pieces of art and sculpture. Mansi too, because she's a painter. So her eye would also judge and would influence us tremendously. So it's just the love of art, really.
So,
the rapid fire has become a lengthy chat on the question.
Women love to talk.
I
think, whoever's watching,
there's no rapid fire possible.
There's no rapid fire. We just talk. And that's the way. We decide what we want to do.
Yes.
Life doesn't decide for us.
We set the benchmarks.
I just want to know, how do you deal with probably a bad moment or a bad day or a failure, so to speak? There are different ways people
I
react
watch
to that.
Netflix.
To get over it?
Yeah.
And then you have to make a comeback. All of us need to make a comeback.
All of us know how to deal with it. If you have a problem, you know how to deal with it in some way.
So you watch Netflix. I tell you.
Yeah, it's a big deal. No, in my case, Navika, my bad day is almost every day I have bad moments. No, I do. Because I'm working in an ecosystem which was so much about Vikram, So there are a lot of memories and moments that come back to me all through the day. And it's my fourth year. And I can tell you, grief is, people say you'll get over it, but it's not flu. that you can get over. Grief is not flu. It stays with you. You learn to cope with it better. And in my moments when I do break down, and that happens almost every day, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, you become almost two people. So there's one person that faces the world with the confidence and the resilience, and you have to. That's what helps you to succeed and to pull on and not give up. But there's another part of you inside that grieves and breaks down almost every day, because there are so many triggers, so many little triggers that remind you of the person. You know, when I lost Vikram, I lost more than a husband. I lost a role, I lost a routine, I lost a context, I lost a relationship. So you lose a lot when you when the person who lives with you suddenly goes away. So there's a lot that you need to cope with inside you. You change.
You still have days when you feel he's going to walk through the door.
You know, that somehow I don't, Navika. I just knew the moment he passed away, within 5 minutes, I knew he isn't coming back. I just had that realization. I had no false sense of security in me. I never dreamt that he's going to come back. No, I knew that he's gone. And this is something now I have to cope with. In fact, you know, 8 days later, I looked at that's when I decided to come back to life very soon. I was also criticized for getting back into action mode that soon, but I had to for various reasons. I looked at his photograph and I said, today is the first day of the rest of my life. And this is how it's going to be. So when I have this bad moment, when I have this moment of deep grief where I'm sort of, you know, I feel very numb. So even if there's a dinner and an event that I have to go to in the evening, and that's very often, because when we have our Japanese partners who are now visiting India more often because they see a greater opportunity, and we are encouraging them to come more often because we want them to invest with us more in India now. So there are a lot of evenings that are engaged in work, in business meetings, and in CII sessions or whatever they might be. I, you know, feel extremely tired because grief tires your nerves. I feel very exhausted. And to answer your question, you know, what do you do in that moment? I have to go out. I don't have a choice. But when I do have a choice, I cope with it by just hanging out with my aunts, uncles, cousins, and relatives, all of whom, and I would like to say that today, have been absolutely wonderful in just showing up. When you're in grief, you do not want your friends and relatives to judge you. You certainly don't want them to give you advice. And this is something I'd like to tell people who are dealing with those they love in grief. Don't give advice, don't judge, don't say anything. Because the person
just be there.
Just show up. Because the person who entered the storm is very different from the person who comes out of the storm. So the people who love you are dealing with a new version of you. It is not the old version of you. And they expect, and they somehow subconsciously want you to be that person. You're not. So there's a lot of understanding. From my side, the person who goes through grief also has to manage expectations. Because the first thing you do when you're in grief, you tend to cling to the people you love. Your parents, your sibling, your children. I just have one daughter. She's married into a large family. She has 2 very small children. One who was 2 years old when Vikram passed away, the other who she was still expecting. I had to be very conscious and very careful that I do not impose my grief on my daughter. I wanted her to have her own life, and I wanted her to be immersed in her own life, and I wanted her to enjoy it without constantly bearing the burden of a grieving mother, a grieving parent who's alone back home in another city. So those challenging moments are also there in front of you. So how do you cope? I coped because my multiple relatives, cousins, uncle, the big fat Indian family came to the rescue, and they visited me and ensured that I was never really alone for more than a week at a time. And I, sitting with them in the evening, talking to them, just putting my head on their lap and chatting about nothing, chatting about old days, sometimes even about Vikram. They all loved him. You know, he reached out to every member of my family. He, in fact, I believe, did a lot more for them than he would have for his extended family. So sometimes even his references come up. But I cope with my grief, and I heal when I have these moments with the family. We just chat, we listen to music. They're just there, you know, they accept the new version of me. So that's how I give in to my grief. That's how I cope in those moments that you asked when you're distraught.
You, Kiran?
No, I tend to kind of immerse myself in something very different. You know, I don't, of course, my family is always there for me, but they are far away. So if we are together, it's great. But if we are not together, I might call them. But I tend to kind of if friends, but I tend to be a bit of a loner when it comes to dealing with grief. And as I said, I tend to deal with grief either by watching Netflix or doing something completely different to distract me. That's what I tend to do. I don't want to think about it. So the only way to do it is to distract myself.
Kiran, I find every person deals with grief differently. So when I'm asked, I always say that there's no one size that fits all.
That's true.
Everyone deals. It's so individual.
Yeah, grief is something so
very,
personal.
Very individual.
And you have to.
Everybody's experiences are their own, and
what I might listen
your
to,
thoughts.
I might suddenly listen to music. I might read a book. I might see Netflix. I might do so many different things just to get my mind off.
I don't know, I'm a little more clingy. I've always been clingy, even in my marriage. So Mansi used to tell me, Mama, what will you do? I mean, what do you do? How do you manage? So I think I tend to cling to, the relatives who are there or whatever that gives.
Whatever works for
whatever
anyone.
works. And if they're not there, Navika, then so be it. Then of course, you have to find your way.
The one big thing
that
you want now to do in the future,
okay,
the one
Kiran,
thing you're looking forward to.
Me? You want me to answer?
Well,
Kiran, you want to say?
The day I can hand over my big responsibility to Claire.
Similar.
Is that anytime soon?
No, it will take me 5 years, I've said.
Okay.
But that day, 5 years
Please don't
later,
hold your breath. She's very much here. And we're so used to seeing you around and being this confident woman, speaking her mind.
Yeah, but
saying
I don't
it
think,
as it is.
Yeah.
We need you there.
No, I don't think a founder can ever disengage or disconnect from your company. So I'll always be there in the background, but not as active and hands-on as I am today. And that's why I think then I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Kiran, we have to tell all the award giving media that they should not give Kiran Lifetime Achievement Award just as yet. Don't you agree?
I always say,
she was getting one.
I was given one just now.
No.
I was given one and I said, why are you giving me a Lifetime Achievement Award? Because I see a whole lifetime ahead of me.
Us. So wait till let me finish the lifetime to get the Lifetime Achievement
So
Award.
I don't think, people like me can give up on anything and everything, because I think I look at life in a very different way. There's so much to do and I have to make every moment count. So in whichever way I can do what I set out to do, I will do it till the end of my life.
Super. I mean, that sounds beautiful, and don't hang up your boots anytime soon. And these days, I think, that age limit is
a number.
not something anybody is bothering. Everybody is redefining their age group.
And biotech is going to make you ageless.
Well, that conversation maybe after
is a
the podcast.
Dialogue, after the podcast. No, so
that is a separate podcast in itself, where we can tell people little secrets of how they can reverse age. But what is the one big to-do thing still that you look forward to? Ki ye mujhe karna hai.
So two streams, Navika. To take on from Kiran's point, I would also like to delegate a lot more to my daughter. And that's already happening. That transition is happening rapidly, I would say. And I've set myself a target of a certain number of years. Kiran said 5. In my case, it may be about 7 or 8, but not more than that. But I would continue to want to add value at a different level, in a different context, to my businesses. Through different platforms. I'm already doing a lot of work on the India-Japan platform, for example. So I'd like to, because one has to stay relevant, like Kiran rightly said. The other stream, which is actually more interesting and more important to me, is my phase of being a grandparent. I love being granny. I just love being granny.
What do they call you?
They call me Nani. They call me Nani. And it's wonderful. I speak to them on FaceTime. I want to be able to now at least over the next 10 years, it's a beautiful age, 3 and 6, right? They're going to grow to the next stage. I want to be a little more immersive as a granny and to participate in their life without imposing, without intervening or interfering, because, you know, young people these days don't want your views and opinions. But I want to see how we live in different cities. You know, the kids these days, Navika, are very busy. They have no time.
Yeah.
I might be able to make time through better time management and more efficient management, but they have no time. They have football class, they have piano class, they have tuitions. Even at the age of 3 and 7, they have gym classes, they have general knowledge classes. And I think my daughter and husband are very immersed and very keen to develop them in a very rounded manner. So I want to be able to spend more immersive time playing granny. I'm a single grandparent like Kiran, so that I have that responsibility. I hope I'm in the last phase of my life, right? And I hope.
Hello.
Yeah, it is the last phase.
When did that happen?
No, 61 to what? 91. So last 30 years, chalo. Thanks to Biocon,
Last
I might
50
live
years
to,
maybe,
thanks
okay.
to Biocon, maybe 30 years. But in this last phase, if I last long enough, then I want to
very
be
precise, I must say, 61 to 91.
91. If I last that long, thanks to Biocon, then I might want to attend their graduation, to watch them grow into fine adults, to immerse and participate in their life. I think this is my most beautiful phase of my life, is being a single grandparent. I want to have
sweet.
lots of stories to be able to tell them, Navika.
I'm sure you do.
You know, an enriching
I'm
grandmother.
sure you do. You will have many from your life experiences. The other, the creative Geetu,
Yes.
will
Creative
think and
Geetu,
make them
no,
up.
I think that we can all make up. Stories we are good at making up.
I know. It's been so beautiful to actually get an insight into two strong business leaders who have literally, made their own paths, created huge value in their businesses. But yet, at the end of the day, we're all very simple human beings with very simple needs and maybe simple dreams. To sort of see that with both of you, and such an easygoing friendship. Well, my money is on friendship. I think women supporting women is something that we must encourage and take forward. Not enough of that happens in the world, but this one was so beautiful to actually witness. Thank you so much, Kiran and Geetanjali, for joining me. And it's been Baatein Dil se.
Yes, it has been Baatein Dil.
Yes, I don't know what all I said, but
No,
I said it from my heart.
We actually, both of us have spoken from the heart. And with you, Navika, I find that we can do that somehow. It resonates.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here in your home, Geetanjali, and to have Kiran and you chatting almost as if we've been friends for life.
And I hope we stay and we will stay friends for a long time.